loud today. I don't know. So listen. Yeah, harder doesn't seem to be working today. There we go. How's that? Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Sullivan, and I want to welcome you to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We're really happy that you've joined us here today, whether you're here in person in our building or online. Thank you to everybody who has made the time to come and be a part of our community. If you want to silence your devices so that we can be very present in our time together, that would be wonderful. Right. We're going to start with committee moments, so if there are any committee chairs who want to share the work of what's happening around our congregation, please go ahead.
Happy New Year. This is Lori, hospitality chair. So I wanted to first of all thank Joey for doing all the work. Can you hear me now?
Nope. There.
That's it?
Nope.
This way the people out in the world can hear me. Hi, this is Lori, hospitality. I wanted to start by thanking Joey for helping to organize the coffee hour while I've been out of town for about a month. Then the best news is that we're doing our potluck next Sunday.
Hey.
I don't have a theme, so it's bring your favorite cold weather dish. And we'll have a bunch of people ready to do it. If there's somebody who can volunteer to help with the cleanup, I can't stay next week. So after service, if somebody could come up and tell me they'll take the lead on cleanup, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody. John Mowbray on behalf of Facilities and Grounds. Next Saturday is a work day. It's here already. So if you can come out between 9 and 12 and pitch in, around the inside or outside, we can use the help for sure. So again, next Saturday, 9 to 12. Thank you.
Usually it's the third Saturday. Are you sure? So it's the 14th or it's the 20th?
Don't come next Saturday.
So
Sunday.
revisit that.
All right. So what's that date then? 21st. All right, my bad. Forget it. Put it on your calendar for the 21st, not next Saturday, or this coming Saturday. All right, sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's right. So Ann Packham on behalf of the board, two things. One, we just set the date for our quarterly meeting, which will be February 26th. Traditionally, we do it on the third Saturday of the month, third Sunday of the month, but there was some bunch of conflicts or something. So put that on your calendar. And then the other thing is that I know it seems early because we're only halfway into the calendar or the fiscal year, but we're getting to the point of year where we're looking for people to step up for the nominating committee. So the nominating committee are people who go around and look for individuals who might want to step up into a leadership role within the church. That would be trustee, vice president, treasurer. There's a lot of ways to become more familiar with what we do here and to have a greater say in how things are run here. So if you're interested in being on the nominating committee, see me either sometime today. I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. So my opening words today are by Andre Moll. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you shelter, when I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, or when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. when we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences. That is where holy gratitude begins. Thank you, everyone. If we would today for our opening music, it is Come, Come, Whoever You Are, and Gary and Janet will be leading us.
We'll be doing Come, Come, Whoever You Are. This is a round, and you're here doing a certain song in the fall, those who are familiar. So what we're going to do is our wonderful guitarists are going to play the whole thing for an intro, then we'll all sing together, and then we're going to do the round twice. Gary's going to start, and then with the group over here, that half of the church, and then I will bring you guys in. And we'll do the round part twice, and then we'll continue with our service.
Of how you can be singing on totally different notes but still make beautiful music. All right. Our chalice lighter today is Miles, who's 4 years old and uses he, him pronoun. And Miles was at Auntie Rhoda's house with his family. And is very excited about that. He needs hazard pay. All right. Please join me in reciting the chalice lighting. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And our society's affirmation: love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. So we want to welcome everyone who has joined us today. Maybe we have some visitors here who are joining us for the first or second time. Maybe we have some new visitors online with us. We certainly have lots of friends and members who are here returning as part of our community. So our congregation values a diversity of opinion, and you'll find many different topics and perspectives here. So if you're new and visiting us, please come more than once just to experience the breadth of what we have to offer in our services and to feel the warmth and welcome of our community. So, joys and concerns. This is a time where we share together the important events of our lives, and by doing that, that brings us closer together in community, and it also helps ease burdens or multiply joys that you have. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share, please come up to the microphone and briefly share. Do remember that this is being broadcast on the internet, so what you're saying is going out to the entire world. And I will go ahead and then put a stone in for you.
I have a joy that I lost my tooth.
Hi, Chloe McElroy. On December 28th, my mom had shoulder surgery on her left shoulder. She actually got something called a graft jacket, which basically means that they took donated tissue from someone else and wrapped it around the damaged area of her arm, which is kind of cool actually, but also very painful. She's been having a hard time over the past past week, I think now it's been. So just any good vibes you can send to her, or she also said that she's open for hot meals if anybody feels like dropping one by. So if anybody needs my parents' phone number, I will be in the back with the kids at the end of the evening.
Hi, I'm Janet and Gary Levins. We have a joy and a concern. The concern first is that one of our closest friends from a past life, when we lived in Iowa, is really, really sick. He has 2 different cancers, they're both metastatic, and he was doing really well, but he took a sudden turn for the worse on Friday, and he's in the hospital, he's not doing very well. So that's a big concern for us. And our joy, switching from the horrible to the wonderful, our joy is that we just got back from a trip to Argentina. We travel a lot, but it was one of the best trips we've ever had. And the highlight of the trip was Iguazu Falls, and all I can say, well, the photos don't do it justice, and it was the most wonderful natural spectacle we've ever seen in our entire lives. It was just absolutely amazing.
My name is Jules. Can you guys hear me? With the mask? Okay. This week I'm completing my DCF hours and exams. So, yeah, it's about time.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I have 2 joys. One was I just spent 2 weeks with my oldest son, who was visiting from elsewhere. It's complicated. That was great. He's college age, so he's sort of on his way back to college. And then the second joy is our other son, who broke his arm. He's healing very nicely. We had another checkup, more X-rays. Bones are much, much closer together, like they're supposed to be. And his weight limit got increased from 2 pounds to 15. And I told him that he could start driving to school again. Yes, very good for both.
Hi, I'm Liv. Hi. I have a joy and a concern. My concern is that my great-grandmother died because she was in the hospital. She had trouble breathing. And my joy is that my little brother and my little sister are gonna have a birthday on 2 weeks. 2 Sundays, 2 weeks for 2 little children. Thank you. And they're going to be 6.
Hi, Chloe Hatfield. I have 2 joys. Yesterday was my mother's birthday, and today is my brother's birthday.
Um, 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 better than something important.
Something important? Okay, don't put your mouth on it.
Better than a, yeah.
Okay, see, thank you.
I'm having a
He's having a party. It's so wonderful to watch our kids grow up. We haven't seen Miles up in front of the congregation. It's just great. 4. My joy is that we have a great team planning our upcoming auction for April 16th, so keep that date on your calendar too. But Lindsay missed the announcement section and wanted to mention that there is an auction planning meeting Monday evening on Zoom. So if you want more information, see me after service or reach out to Lindsay. I imagine it's in the notable news as well, but if you want to participate in planning that fun, please do. Oh, yeah, and today is my birthday. Yeah. We're not gonna say how many years, but we're gonna say I started off with a wonderful breakfast with my friends, the Colombian family, this morning, and it's just gonna be a glorious day and month. I believe in celebrating all month long, so just so you know. And we just got one more joy from Happy. Just said goodbye to Cammie. That's their oldest daughter. She heads home to Seattle. Had a wonderful visit for 4 weeks. So grateful to have such a terrific visit. And she brought her boyfriend for the visit, whom some of us met at winter solstice. He was very nice, and they just loved it. So bye, Cammie, and best wishes. She's doing great.
And I have a joy to share as well. Our son Jay drove from Orlando and successfully arrived in Phoenix safe and sound. If you could please take a moment just to meditate silently on all the joys and concerns that were shared today and any that remain in people's hearts that were unspoken. Thank you. Do we have a time for all ages today? No? Okay. That is fine. All right then. Our interlude and offering. This is an opportunity for you to support our congregation as well as the work of organizations that our community that lift up others. And during it, Paula will be singing a song. It is Common Thread.
Bear with me, I just learned this thing this morning. I guess that's as much of a warning as it is anything else.
fear and hatred, clothed in dignity we stand. We will all rise together, we will rise. We have pieced this quilt together, leaning hearts with stitching hands. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. We are spirits drawn together, tightly by our common threads. We will rise all together, we will rise. From our children to our elders, from all nations we will rise. We will rise all together, we will rise. May respect for all our differences enhance our common ties. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will all rise together, we will rise. We will build a global family strengthened by our common thread. We will all rise together, we will rise. We will all rise together, we will rise. We will all rise together, we will rise.
Thank you to all the people who create music here for us. All right, the children's recessional, if you'll join me. We love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. Our speaker today is the Reverend Katrina Jenkins. She has worked for over 20 years as a chaplain, and for the last 7 or so, she's been the Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life at Rollins College. She's going to talk to us today about, it's interfaith communications and working with your own and working with others. So if you will join me in welcoming Katrina Jenkins.
Good morning, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be with you all. I'm Katrina, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I bring you greetings from Rollins College. I call us the other school down the other side. No offense to UCF. We have a really good relationship with UCF. I know many of their folks there. But I'm so honored to be here. First of all, happy birthday, Martha, who I've had the pleasure of talking to, reconnecting. I know we have met at some point, and just really excited. To my friend Nicole, my walking buddy on the path, I just want to say thank you, because Nicole was the one who connected us. And Sarah, thank you for being such a great host for me this morning. And finally, Peter, who is my new friend in partnership. We were just on a panel together, coming to you soon on Growing Bolder. Yes, I'm putting in a shameless plug. I don't know, Peter, I hope that we resolved some things in the world. I'm not quite too sure. So I bring you greetings, and as I was talking to Martha this past week, I was trying to reflect, because a lot of the work that I do, one of the reasons why I was brought to Rollins was to build bridges and build interfaith spaces at Rollins, where Rollins, if you don't know, was historically founded by the Congregationalist Church. We're the oldest college in Florida, first college in Florida, founded by the Congregationalists. And as with if you look at, I'm all into the history and themes of chaplaincies, right? During that 60s and 70s time, there's definitely a separation of colleges who were once founded by mostly also Christian, churches. They started doing some separation. So the same thing has happened at Rollins and happened a while ago. So I was brought in to build more of those bridges. So to give you an idea of what Rollins looks like right now, I'm a Baptist. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But our faiths represented, so we have the traditional mainline denominations, as we say. We have Catholics, which is our largest population at Rollins, which is not unusual. Rollins is my third institution I've served, and our Catholic population makes up about 80% of those who identify as religious, yes. So, exactly. It's a huge portion. We also, though, have our Jewish population, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, secular, and pagans. So we have a lot of representation on campus. And my job is to make sure that all my students, faculty, and staff, or those who wish to have some kind of faith, belief system, or even just explore and interact and have meaningful discussions, that's what I'm there to do. And we do that via services and programs. So that's how we do this. So I love my job. But this is something, a lot of people always ask me the question, how did you fall into this? You're a Baptist. How does that work? What do you do with all of this? So I thought I would begin with a story. I was telling Martha how I actually found out about Unitarian Universalists. So let me bring you back to 1996, where I was beginning my first year as a divinity student at Andover Newton Theological School in Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. I was interning for an organization called Cooperative Metropolitan Ministries, affectionately known as CMM, which was founded in the 60s based on the principles of Martin Luther King Jr.'s How Do We Find That Beloved or Beloved Community. And so CMM basically was an interfaith organization that brought together people of various congregations, belief systems, to better the world. And at that time, our bettering the world looked like there was a very serious gang population in Boston, and many of the congregations wanted to come together, and this is across the board, to talk about this and how do we mobilize in order to provide a better place for the youth of Boston and the surrounding areas to land. And so we had partnerships. So we would have all kinds of congregations, from our Muslims to our Jewish to our Christians. Everybody would come together for what we call dinner dialogue meetings, where we would have a particular topic each month. So we bring together people for dinner, and we would talk about, and we hear from speakers and figure out how do we mobilize. And then we would have the partnerships. I'll get to that in a minute. So I was sitting there for my first meeting, and at the end, they asked Pastor Judy, who was a pastor for a Unitarian church, to pray. And so she did. And when she prayed, my Baptist imagination said, that wasn't a prayer. But unfortunately, my mouth also uttered it too. And next to me sat a very lovely lady, Kay Smith, who has since passed away a while ago. And Kay, unknown to me, had heard me say, that wasn't a prayer. She didn't say the name of Jesus. And Kay, who was on, because as an intern I had a committee that I had to report to. Okay, so Kay was on that committee. But Kay also took it upon herself to tell Pastor Judy what I said. You see where I'm going here? Okay. So meanwhile, my well-meaning supervisor, Claire Kashuk, who is still with me to this day, who is Jewish, said, Katrina, I need to assign you an article. I want you to write something for the newsletter. I need for you to talk to Pastor Judy and the pastor from the Pentecostal church to do an article, because they have a gospel choir together, and they go and sing around the Boston area raising funds for a new children's center that they're putting on the church. And I need for you to go and find and talk to Pastor Judy because, right, there's Jesus and there's all kinds of things. And I was like, oh, okay. She didn't know what I had said, I had uttered. So I remember going and sitting with Pastor Judy, and she said, you know, Katrina, I understand that you didn't like my prayer the other day. And I thought, okay, here goes. And I said, no. I said, I didn't. I said, you know, for me, prayers in my Baptist self, prayers end with the name of Jesus. And she said to me, can we talk about how did you grow up and your background? And let me tell you about my background. And maybe from that, we can have some type of understanding. And hence what was born was a change within myself. Because Pastor Judy was one of those people, and my whole entire time I was telling Martha at this organization, really made me have to look at who I was as a Christian. And why did I believe in myself as a Christian? And how could I open myself up to others and belief systems and be respectful and also be able to engage with other people who didn't hold the same convictions as I did. And little did I know, it would evolve into me doing what I do today, which is what I love, which is bringing people from various paths, from various backgrounds, ethnicities, everything, genders, to come together, to be able to engage with each other. And sometimes it gets messy, but other times it could be one of the most beautiful and touching things that people could ever imagine. And that led to me to do another year. I did another year with Cooperative Metropolitan Ministries. And I was exposed to the beauty of going to Shabbat services. Claire actually became my second mom, my supervisor. She actually was at my ordination ceremony. And I tell this because if you had come to my ordination ceremony, think about it, the oldest Black Baptist church in Boston. And I had a Buddhist read a beautiful prayer over me. I had a rabbi who wrapped me in his shawl and prayed over me. I had the Muslim advisor come forth and speak words of affirmation over me. My dear friend, the late Father Claude Grenache, came and he was on the program. He was the Catholic priest and he did one of my scriptures. And meanwhile, my church was going like, what in the world happened? Life happened. And I say that because there's a hymn that people sing, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And in order for people to start engaging in these kinds of conversations, things have to begin with ourselves and usually looking at our own things. So I will tell you, I grew up as a product, right, of an African-American, very proud product of an African-American church in Stratford, Connecticut. So that's where I was raised, born and raised. And I say this because it goes into the context of some things I'm going to end up with later. Our church was actually very progressive. We were the only, I would say, African-American Baptist church in Stratford, and this was a town of 60,000 people. To our credit, though, I will say this because I need to do the other side. Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is the largest city in Connecticut, was right next door to us. So a lot of the African-American or other churches also were down the street. But I always thought it was interesting. My pastor believed in women ministers. So I grew up in a church that was women who were half the staff were ordained. That was nothing unusual. We had 10 choirs. I know, imagine that. We had, and the youth were very much, what I love about your congregation here, the youth and the children were very much incorporated. I was saying to Martha, seeing how well you incorporate your children and youth, I grew up in that kind of atmosphere. And that's what helped me be the person I am today. In fact, I was honoring a gentleman, his name is Charles Broom. Mr. McBroom knew me when I was 4. I started ushering. So I started taking up the offering and everything and greeting people when I was 4. as a junior usher, as we called. And this gentleman watched me grow up from 4 to going to college, to working, to becoming a minister, to watching me get ordained. And he has had such a prolific, I remember his smile, and I often say he knew everything going on in the church, and he would always wink and say what he had to say. But I say these things because it was the kind of church, and we also were incorporated. We had a credit union downstairs in our church. So growing up with these kinds of things, and we also owned the block in terms of we owned the houses, so we were good landlord to many people in our houses there. I say these things because even growing up with that, there were also short sightings in terms of, Jesus was the way, the only way. And I don't ever fault my Baptist training, so that's something I still hold close. But I had to expand myself in terms of encounters and conversations with other people in order to expand my worldview. Because there's no way that I could do what I do today in terms of being on a college campus where everything is always so fluid and where I never know where students are going to come from or their background or what have you. And I would never be able to stand before you today to talk about these kinds of things. But I say these things because the first thing starts with our hearts, and we have to open ourselves. And we have to be able to think about these things. I'm going to tell one more story. Peter, excuse me, because I know you've heard this. He heard this during a panel. About how just the little things that we do can change the world. And I say this because a lot of times, especially now, people go, well, it seems like the world is so crazy and polarized and everybody's on different ends and what have you, and I can't have these conversations and everything. And all I can say is keep on trying, because you never know the little thing you might do or say, or something that someone says and does to you might open up your heart and your mind. So I was in Illinois College. My second college I worked for, the first one I worked for, I was the Protestant chaplain at Bentley University, just outside of Boston for 11 years. And then I found myself in rural Illinois, in a small place called Jacksonville, Illinois, where it was 19,000 people, and our crops were soybeans and corn. And so, bless you, and I had or Gesundheit, and I had it was very different for me, being a city child of a father whose family was in farming, but didn't experience that as much. It was very different, and I had very different students, too, in the sense of most of my students were from farm, or they were from urban areas like Chicago, and it was their first time even being in this type of environment. When I went there, the school, there were a lot of things going on. For instance, there was, I hate to put labels on things, but we had a very evangelical Christian group that, as a tour guide was telling me, had basically taken over the college in terms of some of the things they were doing. If you weren't Christian enough by their standards, they would let you know. They would show up at different kinds of organizational meetings. I had an atheist group that when I came on campus, they were the most supportive of me, more than my own Christian students. So to set the standard, this representatives from this group told me that they would never accept me as a female, they would never accept my authority, they would never accept me, and went to make my life, excuse the expression, a living hell for 2 years. But I had to learn to be persistent, so I showed up. I showed up at all their meetings, even ones they think I didn't know about. Because the thing is, I could only show up as myself. And I was very clear that I was called to this college to open up the avenues of talking and discussion, and to also build interfaith programming as much as I could, or to have different belief systems be able to work with one another. So I would show up at this organization's meetings. I would sit in the corner and I would raise my hand at their Bible studies, and I would have my Bible and I would have a notepad and I would take copious notes and I would do gentle corrections. And I thought, they were like, she's annoying, she's annoying. The third year I had a break, And long story short, we had to reorg this particular group and another Christian group on campus. They violated a policy. And it was my way of being able to finally say, okay, let me start building and seeing what I could do internally with this group. And at first they were very polite, but I could tell there were still things going on behind the scenes. And none of them would come to chapel. We had chapel midweek. Chapel was always Wednesday. It was part of the school's history, always Wednesday. And I would have faculty, staff, and students come because after chapel, that's when classes began. It also was hard, too, because a lot of people would party Tuesday night and would not show up Wednesday. But that was another story. There was a young man. His name was Aaron. And Aaron, who was the president of one of these organizations, kept on coming to chapel. All of a sudden, he showed up. And I thought, thank you. And I thought, this is not going to be good. I'm wondering what you're doing. And then he started bringing another friend. And I thought, okay, who's, the paranoid side, spies in the land, what's going on? In between that, my assistant left. I had an assistant 10 hours a week, and the school decided that I would not get another one. I would have to get a work study, a student to fill in. So Aaron started showing up after service and going and saying to me things like, oh, so Jackie is going. Jackie was the name of my assistant. I said, yes, she's retiring. And every week, and he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to get a student. And I was smiling, going about my business. He said, oh. And finally, I stopped him one day. I said, Aaron, what's going on? Why are you asking me all these questions? And he said to me, well, I want to work for you. And I thought, my goodness, what did you just say? Because this was a young man who basically his organization, remember, told me that I had no authority because I was a female person over them, and that I was trying to open the gates of hell because, lo and behold, I wanted to have conversations across difference, and that I wanted to challenge people, even in their own Christianity. Still had my core, but I wanted to challenge people to look out beyond that. And I thought, okay, there's a trick here. Something's going on. And he said, no, I've been coming to chapel, and I really feel like you preach, and you preach from your heart, and you open up the scriptures to us. And he kept on going on, and I said, okay, Aaron, I'm going to give you a chance, but don't cross over this chance. Don't take advantage of it. I said, I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you. You know what started? It was a beautiful thing. Aaron started, first of all, it was big for him to work. He did take some things from his friends who were like, wait a minute, you're working for her now? But a funny thing started happening. A lot of folks from the organization started coming to chapel. Some didn't, but others did. They managed to put themselves on a interfaith council. That some of the group members started working with us. And then Aaron came to me a year later and said, Rev, here's what's going on. He's like, I have a friend, he's Muslim. And we were talking about our particular, holy books. And we decided we wanted to have some kind of talk about that. And I was like, what? Just the little things. It was the little things that took it. And I will end the Aaron story this way. Aaron and I became really extremely close. Now, we didn't agree on everything. I'm going to tell you that. This wasn't the kind of kumbaya, like we agreed and, we didn't. But there was a respect level there that we had established with one another. And from that respect, it grew outward. It was a fellowship of Christian athletes that Aaron was the president of. Rollins actually has an FCA themselves today. And they grew to be one of the more successful groups. And also along with that, they opened up the door for other groups on our campus. So we had another group called Brothers and Sisters in Christ, who were kind of like the brother and sister group of that. We had another Christian group. We had a Catholic group. We had an interfaith group. And they all began to work together on various programs. Aaron graduated, and I was asked to give him the highest honor in terms of the School for Scholarship, and I was asked to introduce him. I grew really close to him and his family. In fact, he's married now with 3 children, 2, about to be 3. in June. And I had the opportunity of giving him that highest honor. And I told the story of how Aaron and I at first did not get along, which shocked a lot of people because if you saw us on campus, it felt like we were joined at the hip. Only a few insiders knew that. And Aaron's mom had told me because I had moved, when he got married, I moved here to Florida, and I was just beginning my job at Rollins. And I couldn't make his wedding. And his mom said, you know, Rev, if you had come, Aaron had saved a dance after the mother-son dance, and he called it the Rev and me dance. You know, I still keep in touch with Aaron, but I think sometimes it's those little things, right? That little of being persistent, of knowing that sometimes your advances for anything, I tell people this in all walks of life, might be rejected. You know, I hear this especially about race relations. Well, suppose I approach someone and I'm automatically, you know, people kind of put me to the side. I'm like, keep on trying because there might be someone else. Same with the faith situation, same with any situation. Because that's what I've had to learn. I've had to be persistent. I've had to stay there sometimes, and I've also had to know to walk away. I'm a big Kenny Rogers fan, so, you know, know when to hold him, know when to walk away. Sometimes, yes, sometimes you have to, for your own sanity, right, know that a conversation is not going to go well and that you're going to go in circles, and for your own self-care and mental health, sometimes you have to walk away. But I say to you today, we try to practice this kind of model at Rollins, and I've seen us grow with a pagan group who no one wanted on campus, who they were even afraid to show who they were on campus because had received some criticism even in class when one young woman identified as being a pagan and practicing. Coming out of the broom closet. And so that was one of the things, but to be able to walk with students, not necessarily, I don't understand everything about paganism. Sometimes I struggle, my own Christianity comes up, but I want my students to have a voice, and I want to learn. I want to learn. That curiosity in me, and that's what I try to tell people is to try and stay curious, to try to stay persistent, and to try and to continue to learn about each other. Because I'll end with this. You see what's going on in the world today, this is what I say to my colleagues. You see, if we don't really try to continue to talk, at least to be in these talks, we're just going to continue to get divided, and divided, and divided, and divided. I'm sorry, because I'm fighting for this generation of college students. I've been at this for 23 years. I am fighting for these generations past and present and future, to do a great job at being able to stay and have discussions and to grow. So I don't know if I said anything that resonated, but I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to be before you today. So as I end with my own congregation, I say blessings to you on this day. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll extinguish the chalice now, if you'll join me. Extinguish the flame. And our closing music is hymn number 23, and Janet and Gary will be leading us.
I'm not sure we have the words. Are the words going to be up here? But if you have a hymnal, it's number 23, and please follow along if you can. We're going to do 4 verses, so we're just going to do 4 of the 6. And Janet's going to give us a short introduction. Bring many names. of creation, setting each new creation, genius at play. Hail and Hosanna, strong Mother God, one Father God, hugging every child, feeling all the strains of human living, caring and forgiving, till we're reconciled. Hail and Hosanna, one Father God, old aching God, gray with endless care, calmly piercing evil's new disguises, glad of new surprises, wiser than despair. Hail and Hosanna, great living God.
My closing words are by Carl Rogers. When I have been listened to and when I have been heard, I'm able to re-perceive my world in a new way and to go on. It is astonishing how elements that seem insoluble become soluble when someone listens. How confusions that seem irremediable turn into relatively clear flowing streams when one is heard. I have deeply appreciated times that I've experienced sensitive, empathic, concentrated listening. And Katrina has said that she will stay afterwards. If you're interested in more conversations, she would love to have that with you. So I want to thank you all for coming today and wish you a wonderful week.